Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April meeting of the Capital Program Oversight Committee. Mr. Stewart, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, we do. Mayor Bowden.
Good afternoon. My name is Murray Bowden. I was born on June 11, 1933 in Yonkers, New York. And the reason I'm putting that information into the record is because when someone does a search of what I've said and when I said it, I've been adequately identified. There are issues with Metro North and Long Island Railroad that pertain to their spending of money and their not spending of money that have the potential of costing the MTA significant millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. It's gotten to the point where they have not been paying attention. And I am going to make it aware that the consequences of them not paying attention raises the financial liability of the MTA. Hundreds of millions of dollars is a serious issue. As Yogi Berra said, that's real money. My job identifying the problems is over. What I've suggested has been checked legally in a number of places. Failure to implement these safety issues creates a significant liability. It is my responsibility to bring that to this board's attention. This is the one step in a continuing campaign. I've identified the issues that need to be resolved. I don't have to bring those issues to this committee again. But I do have to continue to remind you that not going forward and not addressing these issues is a serious problem. Thank you.
The minutes, that concludes public speakers.
Yes, that concludes all public speakers.
Minutes of the last month's meeting are in the book. May I have a motion to approve them? Second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Committee work plan, Mr. Stewart?
There's no change to the work plan.
Okay, we'll move on to the update on the new fare payment system. Jesse McKinney, Mike Schiffer, and Bernadette Chicchese.
Good afternoon. Jesse McKinney from Fare Payment Programs Group. I'm joined by Mike Schiffer of Metro North and Bernadette Chicchese from Long Island Railroad. I would ask that we hold questions to the end of the presentation. This will be an update to our joint presentation to CPOC in October of 2015. It is a status report on current planned fare payment projects for New York City Transit, Long Island Railroad, and Metro North. For New York City Transit, it is the replacement of our legacy MetroCard system with a modernized fare payment system for our customers. And for Long Island Railroad and Metro North, it is mobile ticketing, which allows customers to purchase and display tickets to conductors via their own smartphones, as well as the railroad's long-term strategy study. I want to spend the next two slides discussing what has not changed versus what has changed since our last CPOC discussion in October of 2015. What has not changed are our primary objectives for the new fare payment system. Our objective is to have an integrated, reliable, and convenient fare payment and collection system that provides best value for our customers. It will be designed in such a manner that will make it adoptable by other MTA agencies and transit systems in the New York region and advance our goal of regional seamless travel. The new system would be robust enough to accept payment media already in the hands of customers, like contactless bank credit, debit cards, and smartphones, but also serve those without, such as our unbanked and underbanked customers, by providing an MTA-issued card that can be purchased by these customers at vending machines in our station, at retail merchant locations, or our customer service center. We envision that our customers would pay fares by tapping a contactless bank card, smartphone, or an MTA-issued smart card against an electronic reader. The proposed system would require a new back-end system that would support the financial functions, payment processing, and other back-office functions. For interoperability purposes, the back-end would be designed to be scalable to accommodate the railroad's fare structure if we decide in the future. We want to enhance the customer experience and convenience with an online customer account management function and mobile device application on their smartphone. Now, what has changed? As you are all aware, on January 13th, 2016, the governor delivered his State of the State address. The governor laid out an accelerated project delivery for new fare payment system at New York City Transit and mobile ticketing at Long Island Railroad and Metro North. The following is a consolidated timeline depicting mobile ticketing for the Long Island Railroad and Metro North and new fare payment system for New York City Transit. The original plan was to introduce mobile ticketing for Metro North later this year and Long Island Railroad in 2017. The deployment of mobile ticketing has been accelerated to begin on both railroads starting in the latter part of June 2016. All railroad lines will have mobile ticketing in place by the end of 2016. My colleagues here from the railroads would provide more details of the mobile ticketing efforts later in the presentation. Mobile ticketing will then be expanded for railroad customers transferring to New York City Transit subways and buses beginning in mid-2017. Railroad customers would not only be able to purchase railroad tickets, but would also be able to pay for subway and bus fares using the same mobile app they use for their railroad tickets. A phased rollout at New York City Transit would begin at primary railroad to subway and railroad to bus transfer points. All other stations and buses would follow. Regarding the new fare payment system, we have updated the RFP package to address the new project delivery schedule. The RFP package has been advertised as of April 11, 2016, and we plan to award the contract by the end of the year. We look to introduce an initial rollout of contactless acceptance at subway stations and buses mid-2018, replacing our previous plans of mid-2020. I now turn over the presentation to Mike Schiffer.
As Jesse mentioned, the mobile app will allow customers to purchase tickets with their smartphones. We expect to go out with a pilot later this month with approximately 100 to 150 customers per railroad. Initially, the pilot on Metro North will be on the Hudson Line, and the pilot on Long Island Railroad will be on the Port Washington branch. June is when we expect to roll out system-wide. The app will be available in both the Apple and Android stores when we roll out, and it will be integrated with bank processing protocols and requirements. It'll also be developed with using a seamless interface with train time as well, so our customers have kind of a cohesive experience, if you will, on their phone. And the expectation when we first roll out is that it will be onboard visual validation, which basically means our customers will show the conductors the ticket available on their phone. Ultimately, we'll have the ability to move up towards a more electronic style of validation. I'll now turn it over to Bernadette Chikese, who will talk a little bit about the next step.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jesse. Mr. Chairman, board members, good afternoon. I'm Bernadette Chikese. I will be representing Mark Young, CFO of Long Island Railroad, who's away from the office this week. Thank you. And I'm new to the team and very excited to be a part of it. Okay. The railroads have engaged a consultant to assist in the development of a long-term fare payment strategy, which will serve as the foundation for the railroad's future system and will shape upcoming capital investments in the new ticket selling infrastructure. 4 tasks were scheduled and developed with a dedicated team from Metro North and Long Island Railroad. The study was launched in April 2015, and the 4 base tasks will be completed by April 2016. The first task was the documentation of current condition, which has been completed in June 2015, which reviewed and documented the current conditions of both railroads. The peer review included 5 chosen peers to review their current and future plans against the industry, which provided us with insight to decision-making, plans, lesson learned, and experiences. We looked at Amtrak, MBTA, Metra, Metrolink, and New Jersey Transit. The long-term strategy study provides the strategic direction, plan, timeframe to leverage technology and to move to the next generation of fare collection and ticket selling systems and processes, and it allows for integration and interoperability with New York City Transit. Task number 4 is the implementation and migration plan, which supports the railroad's recommended new fare payment strategy with a practical approach to achieving project goals, coordinating among other MTA agencies and capital programs. The 5th task is a technical scope of work, which is an option. It's to assist us in developing the technical scope of work to accommodate the railroad's requirements and provide guidance to the selected system integrator. The new long-term strategy study. The railroads will introduce a new ticket selling and fare collection program that offers the following: wide-range fare payment features and expanded customer service so that people have options to buy and how to purchase it: mobile, cash, contactless cards, credit cards. New and additional joint fare media options for customers, taking advantage of new technologies, encoding fare media, TVM machines, and the functionality associated with those machines. Interoperability by allowing customers to maintain a single account across the MTA family. The goal of the system is to provide a seamless experience for customers and a greater level of service to MTA customers. The program will be cost-effective as demonstrated by the completion of the business case. It compares favorably to the cost of maintaining our current infrastructure past its useful life. The program will be synchronized with New York City Transit's Metro card replacement program. The ticket vending machines and ticket offer machines will be replaced and feature expanded functionality, more efficient operations, and less costly maintenance. And a common back end, which a single back end system will create economies of scale and is consistent with the goal of sharing resources where possible within the MTA. Overall, the recommended strategy is flexible enough to handle changes to service, customer base, and technology over the next 20 years and is in line with New York City Transit's plans to retire the MetroCard magnetic system. Thank you.
Before we go to the independent engineer, are there any questions regarding the presentation, Jesse and his team? Neil?
One, I applaud the governor and the staff for accelerating the mobile pay. I think it's exciting. I think it's in line with what consumers want. And for those of us who are on stations that don't have an agent and the machines have the occasion to not work, it's a nice added feature. I did have 2 questions, maybe because I spent a lot of time in the media business, and so I am both a professional consultant. So 2 things. One, I see your mention of the engagement of the consultant and their work is done, but I don't see any results of what they learned or taught us or explained to us. So I'd love to just know what the results of their work were. And then secondly, going from a test in April to a full launch in July with all the fun that Apple puts on new apps, it strikes me as very fast, just from all the products and services I've delivered from a digital media perspective. So I'd just like to understand how we get confidence that we can go from pilot of 100 people on the Hudson line to full implementation a quarter later. That just sounds fast.
Do you want to speak to the... So just answering your last question first, the expectation is that we'll be going through, it is a very aggressive schedule, and we're going through extensive testing. We'll be getting impact and the input from our customers during the pilot that will be fed back to the consultant or the contractor who will work that in. So we feel reasonably confident that we can get that out without a problem. But it does require end-to-end testing to make sure, especially that the reporting functions are working as expected. With respect to the long-range study itself, I believe the consultants have completed it. We'll be coming back to you with the full report.
You will see a flavor in a lot of the presentations over the course of the next months on initiatives that are high profile. They're ones that the governor paid attention to, and we had the dialogue about how we're going to fund this capital program. And one of the clear things that not only the governor but the other stakeholders in the process at the legislature was, how can we more quickly give demonstrable experience to people that there's change occurring, but they're going to benefit from that change. So we've been asked to step outside of the normal bounds we've been in terms of delivering problems surely, I don't want to say slowly, but surely, in a way that we take manageable risks, but deliver the end result to the commuter in a way they can see that benefit. Because if you take a look at the overall rollout of a new fare payment system for a system as large and complicated as ours, and you focus on the end date of 2019 or 2020, it's just too far out there. So that's what some of this is.
And Tom, I applaud that. I would, one of the big phrases that's been used in the digital era the last decade is fail fast. I've probably heard that phrase. Probably in our business, failing fast has obviously different consequences than some consumer app. If that doesn't work, no one has a problem, but we do. But the notion of going quickly and demonstrating value, I was not questioning that at all. I was just questioning the 3 months to go from pilot to full rollout and us being mindful of that.
I guess you didn't share fail fast when you were flying, right? Mitch?
Thank you very much for the presentation. The issue that is of concern to some of us is not the technology. It's the interaction of people. The technology is in the app. I'm sure it can be tested. I'm sure it can be reviewed. That is easy to change if something happens. The harder part to change is the interaction between the customer and the conductor or the ticket agent in the various places where that interaction is going to occur, especially on the trains that are full, especially on the trains that are more than full and have standees, of which we know there are a substantial number these days on the commuter railroads. So that's the concern that a number of us have, not so much because it's much less easy to control in that context, because we're talking about human nature. So my question is, how, while the rest of this we can test, and obviously you can't test that interaction with 150 people, because not all of those people are going to be on the same train, I assume. They're all going to be on a variety of different trains. How do we foresee that working when everybody or a large number of people on the train are going to do this now at the same time for the first time?
So that's one of the reasons why we're rolling out with pilot initially, and we're expecting a staged rollout with this. One of the things we've done is looked at the experiences of some of our peers in the United States, particularly MBTA, New Jersey Transit, Chicago Metra, who've all been rolling these out. And we're learning from their best practices, and we're taking account of lessons learned. The other thing that's notable is that initially the customer experience will be much the same as it is with a paper ticket. That is, yes, there will be a process of purchase and then activation of the ticket. But once customers activate the ticket, and generally speaking, when we've talked to other partners around the country, they've said, yeah, there's usually a small learning curve, but they found that it's surprisingly shorter than they thought it would be. And then the customers display the ticket much the same way you would display your paper ticket, and initially we're doing visual validation. So that should make at least that initial foray far more smooth and far more comparable to the current interaction and experience that our customers see on the railroads.
Comments or questions? Andrew?
When you reach the stage of a pilot at Grand Central, Penn Station, and I assume Atlantic Terminal for the commuter rails with the phone as payment, I hope you're going to pay particular attention to the throughput through turnstiles, because you don't want people fumbling and giant lines forming behind them. That's, you might have to line the phone up exactly, whereas with a contactless card, you don't.
So you're speaking of the subway stations
Yes.
specifically?
Absolutely. I mean, our focus will be on maintaining throughput, especially in our voluminous stations.
If I can add in, they're already testing the throughput right now in the lab, and it's responding very, very well.
But just to clarify, with the initial rollout of mobile ticketing, it's geared towards the commuter rail operations. The subway access is the next, a phase after that. Yeah.
For frame of reference, if you remember what a Perry turnstile, token turnstile was, 1.5 customers a second. That's how fast they were. So it's hard to beat that. Independent engineer, Chris Adams.
Good afternoon. Our report on the new fare payment system. First of all, on the schedule review, we believe there's a risk that the June 2018 initial rollout milestone may not be met. Activities critical to this milestone are contract award by December 2016. Systems need to be in place to process financial transactions. Fully tested hardware and software within 18 months will need to be operational. And finally, bus and subway validators will need to be manufactured and installed. Budget review. In the IEC's opinion, the project budget, including increases to address recent scope and schedule modifications, appears to be adequate at this time. One comment we have, the NFPS strategy to use third-party fare media is sound and adopts lessons learned from deployment of second-generation contactless systems in other major cities. On the commuter rail programs, the mobile ticketing, MNR and Long Island Railway will achieve simultaneous launch of the mobile ticketing applications. Schedule, assuming the pilot is successful, the schedule to commence system-wide rollout for mobile ticketing in June 2016 is reasonable, as the design, development and procurement has been completed over the last 18 months. Budget, the mobile ticket programs are fully funded out of the railway's operating budgets. The budget for the long-term technical scope of work is still to be determined. And that ends our report.
Anybody have any questions for Chris? Ira?
Yeah, regarding the comment about second-generation contactless systems, what other major cities were these used?
Yes, London is a particular case in mind at the present moment. They did a closed-loop system some 10, 15 years ago, and they're now migrated to an open payment system. Paris were the first city to deploy a contactless system in Europe, and that was a closed system. It's now migrating to an open payment as well.
What you mean by open payment is people's own credit cards and
Yes.
that type of thing. Do you also mean mobile phones?
Correct, yes.
And both Paris and London are doing that now?
Yes, they are.
And with success?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Mr. Bellin?
I just note that to support what Neil was saying, I'm all for it, but just the education of the public alone is going to be a time-consuming matter. We're going to have an inordinate amount of people at the various stations and places where you might ordinarily think you're buying tickets to help and to explain and to push things along. And I do note that it's not seamless in London, and you can tell where the foreigners are, because people basically don't know what to do or how to do it, and then they line up to get their questions answered. So I hope we build that into the schedule.
It's a point well taken. I mean, in the rollout of MetroCard 20 years ago, just logistically, to cut across 468 stations at the time, you had to do it in a phased way. So we threw resources at it in terms of putting people in the station, and that's just the way we do business. So, but it's a point well taken, because you have to bring people up a curve from a behavioral standpoint, and you have to get them to a point where they're comfortable and you're not unduly limiting the flow of traffic. It takes people to learn how to also swipe a card, but we have to go through the same concept. Okay, go on to the next presentation, New York City Transit. Thank you, everybody. As they're sitting down, I'll just give you an overview. This is going to be John O'Grady, Bronco Clava, and Sonia Jasing, and they're going to give you a summary of where we're at in terms of Sandy recovery and resiliency. This October marks the 4th year anniversary of what was by far the most impactful event the system has seen in its entire history. And we actually have some of the more daunting challenges yet facing us, and you're going to hear some of that today from John and his team. Proceed.
All right, so I would just like to introduce Bronco Clava as the new program officer for the Sandy Recovery and Resiliency Division. He succeeded Alok Saha, who's moved over to Engineering Services. Joining us will be Sonia, who will be discussing the Clifton Shop at the latter part of the presentation.
Good afternoon. I will be presenting to you the status of the Sandy Resiliency and Recovery Program. First, we will start. As you have seen before, these are our vulnerable assets, some of which were damaged on the Superstorm Sandy, and some of which are repairs were done on some of them, and others are on the way. The program is broken down into 4 different categories: stations on the river, tubes, yards, terminals, and shops, and competitive resiliency program, which includes resiliency work, are all of the different components of our assets. To date, we have committed overall 40% of the allocated funding. The resiliency funding, we are only about a quarter of the way towards implementing that program. That is basically due to the resiliency funding becoming available in September of 2014, at which time we started design and construction of those projects, where the other program we have started much earlier. We have a very ambitious program for 2016. We are planning to award 15 projects over $2 billion. And so far we have awarded 1, and 7 of them are in procurement. And the rest of them we would award by the end of the year with a lot of support from all of you and all of us. This represents the timetable of all of the projects. As you can see, we are more than halfway through, and this year we have a number of big projects to award. In the stations category, we have already completed some near-term work at South Ferry, and we have a major project at the South Ferry Terminal, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more. The South Ferry reconstruction project started in November of 2014 and is scheduled for completion in June of next year. This work includes reconstruction of the facilities, and so far we have successfully completed waterproofing, which was a big effort on our part, and it's been successful so far. Track work and diamond crossover have been completed in December. There are a number of resiliency entrances. There are 3 entrances actually which are in progress, and they received their major structures, which when completed will make these entrances resilient, and water will be able to withstand any kind of a filling up to Category 2 storm. Also, in coordination with the major program at South Ferry, there are 2 small business mentoring projects on the way, which are addressing employee facilities at South Ferry and at Whitehall Street Station. They are both on schedule. 9 tunnels were damaged by Superstorm Sandy. Of those, we have completed repairs on 3 of them. 3 are in construction. One is in procurement, and 2 remain to be done. One of those being Canarsie, which I will talk about more. The Canarsie tunnels were severely damaged by Sandy, Superstorm Sandy. And as you can see from these pictures, the facilities include all of our cabling system, track, and the duct bank, which was inundated with salt water. This is one of an unprecedented impacts on our facilities and will take significant effort to rehabilitate and will impact a great number of our customers. The Canarsie Tunnel project includes a group or a program of projects. It includes the work inside the tunnel itself. It includes work on the fan plants at either side or either end of the tunnel. And it includes circuit breaker houses, one at Bedford and another one at Avenue A. And also it includes work on both the First Avenue station and the Bedford Avenue station. The tunnel work itself, first of all, is about 7,000 feet long and about 15 feet in diameter, and it includes 2 side-by-side tubes. The work would include replacing or reconstructing approximately 7 miles of duct bank, which carry different cables, and in total 56 miles of cabling, and a reconstruction of about 2.5 or 2.7 miles of track. In addition to the 2 circuit breaker houses and the 2 fan plants, a pump room, a new substation, and integrated resiliency. We are in the process of performing a risk assessment on this project to incorporate it into our plan. The First Avenue station will receive new mezzanines, one at the east end of the station, one at each platform. This work will include new stairways as well as elevators going down to the platform, making this station ADA accessible and doubling the entering and exiting capacity for this station. The shafts that are going to be created or built will initially serve as a point of delivery of materials and first removal of debris from the Canarsie Tunnel project. So it will be something that will be critical for the tunnel work itself. The Bedford Avenue station will also get improvements at both of their mezzanines. The mezzanines will receive additional, these are existing mezzanines, which will receive additional stairways to the street and to the platform. And the Bedford Avenue mezzanine will receive ADA elevators, which will make this station, which is one of 100 key stations, ADA accessible. We are in the process of performing outreach to the affected communities. We're in the process of evaluating risk for this project. We are also talking to or working with New State Department of Transportation and EDC to put together a plan that would minimize the impact on the customers and the communities and on the traffic in general. This is a major project which we will put together a plan and then go out to the contracting community to get their best offers for schedule and cost. And we will then be able to go forward with this project and have our critical asset back in service. Next. Oh, I forgot to say that the schedule for this job. At this point, we are planning to award this project by the end of this year in the fourth quarter, and the station, not the station, but the tunnel would be shut down if agreed upon at the first quarter of 2019. Okay, next. The next category is yards, terminals, and shops. Here, we have already performed near-term work at Coney Island Yard and repaired facilities at Stillwell Terminal, as well as replaced the cables in the Rockaway Park Yard. We are halfway through in rehabilitating the St. George Interlocking and Terminal Station, which I'm going to talk about some more at the next slide. This project was awarded in September 2014 and is scheduled for substantial completion in March of 2017. This project is about 55% complete, and it is scheduled to replace all the tracks, interlocks, and signal system, build new signal relay room and battery rooms at an elevated platform above the flood stage. And it will also repair damage to the control tower. So far, we have completed the work on tracks 1 through 10, which includes a diamond crossover, 14 track switches, and power for those tracks. We are in the process of building the platform for the battery and signal relay room, and we are working on the last 3 remaining tracks, which require coordination with a developer next door. So far, we have been successful in coordinating that work. A future project would provide perimeter protection by a wall. Here, Sonia will talk about the Clifton Shop.
Good afternoon. I will be updating you about the Clifton Shop. Clifton Shop, as you may know, is adjacent to the Clifton Station. It's actually the 3rd stop once you leave St. George Terminal. What you see here is a bird's eye view of the Clifton Shop today, and you will notice it is very near the North Shore. It's approximately 250 feet away from the shoreline. Clifton Shop suffered a huge damage during Hurricane Sandy. The entire front facade was destroyed. The shop floor was flooded. Mechanical, electrical, communication, data systems were all destroyed, and some have been just started as state of good repair. What you see, it was built in 1971 and expanded in 1991. Currently, the shop has 4 facilities. It's the paint shop, diesel shop, equipment, and the storage facility. We plan to take Clifton Shop in the design-build approach. It's in active procurement right now. We have finished step 1 of the procurement, or the selection criteria. We are at the step 2 of the procurement, where we've asked selected number of proposers to give us their proposal. Our forecasted plan is to award this shop in November 2016. This is one of the first shops, or the first time New York City Transit is doing a design-build project where the shop will be operational. In addition, this is one of the first facilities we will be designing for sandy resiliency, which is slosh 2+3 category. What we are planning to design is we are planning to have the exterior facade, which is going to be about 15 feet high, and thick concrete walls for the Hurricane Sandy's impact, as we decided with our analysis. We have finished the risk assessment, and we are waiting for their results.
There's a question. Go ahead, Andrew.
Will there be impact on SIR service when you're working on the Clifton shop?
None.
None.
That is why we are doing the first time we are trying. So what you did see was a yellow print, how the new shop would be,
Yep.
and then the old shop. So once the new shop is online, then we'll demolish the old shop.
We'd like to update you on the comparative resilience initiatives. There are 11 different initiatives which affect basically all of our vulnerable assets. So far, over 40 comparative resiliency contracts were awarded. 19 of those are in construction, and including 12 which are small business mentoring projects. As you can see in these photos, these are the various type of devices we have implemented or in the process of implementing to prevent street openings, street stairways, and different type of hatches. Thank you.
Independent engineer report, Mohammed Mohammedina.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The IEC's budget review of the South Ferry Station complex shows that the project is on budget. Expenditures to date reflect the actual percentage of project completion. In the opinion of the IEC, the remaining project contingency is sufficient to reach substantial completion. For schedule review, the contractor has met all contractual milestones to date and is on track to complete station entrances and wind shaft before the contractual milestone of May 31, 2016. The contractor has cited 49 days of critical path delay due to agency-requested changes to station communication system in order to incorporate latest design standards. As far as the major risks, the IEC cites changes and upgrades in communication system to be a schedule risk to the project. The issue is as follows. As a result of late changes to the scope of work in the area of CCTV, phone, wireless, and PA system, there is a delay risk to the project. The agency's mitigation is working with procurement, user groups, designer, and contractor to expedite contract modification, submittal review, and approvals. Once all changes are finalized, the contractor will dedicate sufficient staff, sufficient resources to aggressively attempt to mitigate schedule delays. In the opinion of the IEC, based on the appropriate steps being taken by the agency, most delay risks as a result of changes to the communication system can be mitigated. Unless there are any questions, this concludes the IEC's review of the South Ferry Station complex.
Any comments or questions either from the authority's presentation or the independent engineer? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next presentation, Second Avenue Subway Monthly Update. Good afternoon, Anil. Michael.
Good afternoon. The Lexington Avenue 63rd Street Station contractor is testing and commissioning elevator, escalators, and HVAC systems. All factory acceptance tests have been completed for the project. Field installation acceptance test procedure, which is level 3 and 4, submissions and approvals are on target to be completed to support the testing schedule. Contractors' manpower has increased to meet the level required to support the acceleration agreement, except 72nd Street Station, which I'll talk in later. Systems contractor is installing track, signal, communications, and traction power. Track work is 94% complete. 22,650 linear feet of track out of 22,000 linear feet is installed. The 72nd Street Station finished contractor is falling behind by 3 to 4 weeks. Executive level meetings are held with the contractors president to increase the manpower and ensure the timely completion. Next slide, please. At Lexington Avenue 63rd Street Station, contractor has completed installation of escalator, elevators, and fire life safety system. The contractor is performing the field installation acceptance test, which is level 3 and 4, and is on target to be completed by end of the month. Next slide, please. At 72nd Street Station, the permanent power is scheduled to be energized by end of this month. This is 2 weeks later than the last reported due to the resolution of technical issues identified by Con Edison. There is no impact to the revenue service date. There are 11 escalators and are on target to complete the installation by end of October. 8 out of 11 escalators will be installed by September 1st. There are 7 elevators to be installed. The contractor is falling behind in installation. We are meeting with the contractor to complete the installation on target date by working extended hours and on weekends. These elevators must be completed since it's also an ADA elevators for the station. So before we open the station, the elevator has to be completed. Tunnel ventilation fans and HVAC for ancillary 2 buildings will be completed by May 31st. And ancillary 1 building will be completed by June 15th. Field installation acceptance test, which is level 3 and 4 for emergency ventilation system, HVAC, and fire life safety is on target to be completed by August 31st, 2016. Field installation and acceptance test and integration testing for elevator and escalator is will be completed by November 30th. Next slide, please. At 86th Street Station, the permanent power energization is scheduled for April 30th. Installation of elevators, there are 2 elevators, and escalators, there are 13 escalators, is 3 weeks behind schedule due to the delay in machine room construction, but there is no impact to the revenue service date. The construction of the ancillary 1 and 2 is on target to be completed by end of the month. Level 3 and 4 testing is on target to be completed by August 1st, 2016. Next slide, please. At 96th Street Station, the station contractor will complete 7 out of 9 escalators by end of May, and the remaining 2 will be installed by end of June. There is no impact to the revenue service date. The elevator installation will be completed by end of July. The platform elevators will be installed by end of June, and the street elevator will be installed by end of July. The street elevators has experienced 2 weeks of delay because contractor needed to use the shaft for delivering a critical material for the station finished work. Tunnel ventilation fans, HVAC, fire life safety, and level 3 and 4 testing is on target to be completed. Tunnel ventilation fan, HVAC, and fire life safety is on target to be completed by end of May, and level 3 and 4 testing by August 1st. Next slide, please. The systems contractor is on target to complete the communication installation by end of August, except police radio work, and which is target to be completed by mid-October 2016. The traction power energization for all station is on target to complete by July 11th. Track work is on target to be completed by May 15th, and signal work is on target to be completed by July 18th. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Second Avenue Subway Report from the independent engineer.
Good afternoon. In our April update to the committee, we've observed that the March target dates for installations at Lexington Avenue 63rd Street Station were all met, and that local testing is now underway. However, looking at current contractor forecasts for upcoming work, we've got several concerns. The contractor's forecast kept the schedule targets for only 70% of the interim tracking milestones we identified at the March meeting. There's been really no improvement in the forecasted escalator and elevator completions at 72nd Street, which remain close to impacting the target revenue service date. The testing schedule itself remains highly compressed, which certainly maximizes the demand on transit staff. Looking at a couple of the broader things, besides schedule, we note that the work effort at 72nd Street has not reached the level necessary to support the accelerated schedule. And we're also concerned that late design changes have continued through March, and the backlog of changes may present a risk to the scheduled completion of the testing program. That's our report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Much of your report related to elevators and escalators. Is it necessary for every elevator and escalator to be operational for the public before we open the system?
The answer is elevators are, because elevators are providing the connectivity for ADA. So
Right.
all elevators must be.
Every elevator that is programmed has to be operational.
There is one exception. It's the back of the house. But everything else, yes.
Okay.
Escalators, the story is a little different, although when we are going to go into service, we want all of the escalators to be operational because we need to also do an integrated fire safety, and that will include all of the escalators that have to react in a certain way in a case of an emergency. So although they may not necessarily all be needed because we have extra, it just, in general, we want them all to be there.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I think that concludes Second Avenue. Thank you very much. Capital Program Status Report. Craig?
Good afternoon. I will present the 2016 commitment completion goals and performance highlights through March, starting on page 58. Commitments. In 2016, agencies plan to commit a total of $6.6 billion, including 41 commitments that we are tracking throughout the year. To date, the MTA is reporting on 10 major commitments. 8 were committed on time or early, 1 was committed late, and 1 is delayed beyond March. The delayed project, Eastside Access Grand Central Terminal Cavern Project, was awarded April 11th and will be reported in the April meeting. By year's end, MTA forecasts meeting its annual commitment of $6.6 billion. Completions. In 2016, agencies plan a total of $4.6 billion in completion, including 43 major completions that we are tracking throughout the year. To date, the MTA has completed 3 major projects on time. 1 completion, Eastside Access Manhattan South Structure, is delayed from February to April. Agencies completed $270 million versus $412 million year-to-date goal. By year's end, the MTA forecast meeting its annual completion goal of $4.6 billion. This concludes the completion and commitment report. I'll be glad to entertain any questions. Thank you.
If there are no questions, I need a motion to go into executive session in accordance with New York Public Officers Law, Section 105, Subpart A, 1A, matters which imperil the public safety if disclosed. All in favor? Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll go next door. I'd ask that the presenters from the MTA be kept to a minimum because we'll be a little bit challenged for a number of people in the room next door. We're back in general session. Now I'd like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor? Aye. That concludes the meeting for the Capital Program Oversight Committee. Thank you.